Now, I was in Revelation chapter 6 on the last part, and I was reading to you verse 14. I'll start from there again. I was telling you that verse 14 in Revelation chapter 6, when the heaven departed the scroll, when it's rolled together and every mountain, the islands were moving out of places. I said that was because Jesus was coming to the earth at his second coming at the end of the 7-year period. And I believe at the 1,335th day. And then in verse 15 it talked about the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men, every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and the rocks of the mountains. Said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So why are men, kings on the earth, great men, rich men, chief captains, mighty men, bondmen, hiding themselves, free men, hiding themselves in the dens here on the earth, telling the mountains and rocks to fall on them? Because, like I said, Jesus' presence has just came to the earth. He says in verse 16, he said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So, like I said, as Jesus' presence comes in verse 14, I'm going to show you this in greater detail in Revelation chapter 14, where Jesus comes at the end of the 7-year period, just like I said, and I believe the 1,335th day of 75 days after the 7-year period has ended. I'll show you this in greater detail, like I said, in Revelation 14. Now, in the latter part of 16, it's also talking about how it's from his face and from the wrath of the Lamb. Verse 17 says, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? It's talking about the coming of the wrath of God. But the 7-year period is over. It's talking about the coming of the wrath of God. But the 7-year period is over. Remember, I told you, when the 6th seal is open, verses 12 through 13, I said that event ended the first 7 years, according to Matthew 24 and 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, would this event happen. So, you have the coming of the Lord here in verses 14 through 17, and proclaiming also the great day of his wrath, that his wrath has come. Now, let's see how to do this. Okay, in Revelation 7:1, it says this, and after these things I saw 4 angels stand on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor any tree. Why? It says, and I saw another angel sitting from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, to have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. And there was this number of people sealed. It says, and I heard the number of them which were sealed. And there were sealed 144 and 4,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Now, before the wrath of God, or wrath of the Lamb, these trumpets, begins, you have here now, talking about the 144,000. Remember, the earth could not be hurt. It said, before you can hurt the earth, it says, let us seal these 144,000 in their forehead. These 144,000 are all Jews. And these 144,000 have been redeemed to Christ. They are believers in Christ. You'll also find them in Revelation chapter 14, like the first 5 or 6 verses there in chapter 14, if you want to go over there and read about them. These are all virgins. They all follow Christ. They follow Jesus the Lamb, have the testimony of Jesus, follow the Lamb whichever he goes. They're without fault before the throne. There's no guile in their mouths. These are the first redeemed, and they're here on the earth. You'll find these same men in Ezekiel chapter 9, when the 6 angels that had charge of the city came before the Lord. He told them, want the riders inkhorn to go through the city and set a mark upon the men who sighed and cried for the abominations of Israel. And then he told the other 5 angels, go behind that angel and kill all the men, kill all the people, but the man who has a mark in the forehead, which is the Father's name, Revelation 3:12, he says, don't come near them. These 144,000 are all Jews, and what they're going to do is this. We know right now the Jewish nation has fallen away from the Lord. There's that veil of blindness over their eyes until the midpoint invasion of the 7-year tribulation period. But for these 144,000, because we know there are Jews that believe in Jesus, but the majority of them don't. But these 144,000 are special. These 144,000 redeemed unto the Lord, and they will be here on earth during the wrath of the Lamb and the wrath of the Father to preach the gospel to those who were truly left behind during the wrath of the Lamb and the wrath of God the Father. And the Jews will do what Jesus told them to do when he gave them a mandate. Take the gospel to the world. They didn't. That mantle was lifted off of them and given to the Gentiles. Now it's going to be lifted off of the Gentiles, and during the pouring out of the wrath of the Lamb and the wrath of the Father, it's going to be placed back on the Jews, and they will do exactly what he told them to do. Now, verses 5 through 8 is all the tribes that are numbered. Don't have to read those to you, but I want you to see this. Verse 9 says, after this, after the 144,000 are sealed, he says, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne. Where's the throne? In heaven. It says, and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Now, go down to verse 13. It says, the one of the elders answered, saying unto me, asked John, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? In other words, who are these people arrayed in white robes, and where did they come? So John says in verse 14, and I said to him, sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, these are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. That lets me know that they were here on the earth during that last 3.5 years, known as the Great Tribulation period. He says, these are they who came out of great tribulation. This is the second coming. How did they get out of the earth? Jesus had to come and get them. Where are they now? Before the throne. There's no way we can just get on the ladder or get on a rocket ship and shoot on up to heaven. Jesus came and got them. That's why I was telling you in verses 14, 15, 16, that it was Jesus. That's the reason the heavens departed as a scroll and the earth and all that was trembling, because Jesus' presence came down and hovered over the earth, like he said, on a cloud, stuck in his sickle, gathered the harvest of the earth, and took them back to heaven, according to Revelation 14, verses 14 through 16. So these people identify as coming out of the Great Tribulation period. Remember I told you that the saints of the Most High must be on earth at least to the end of the 7-year period, according to Daniel chapter 7, verses 21 through 25. We must be given into the hands of Antichrist until the end of the 7 years. But now you see the wrath of the Lamb is proclaimed, but you see this great multitude taken out of the earth before the wrath begins, and they're identified as those coming out of the Great Tribulation period. All right, let's move on. Revelation 8:1, it says, when it opened the seventh seal. So we're in between the sixth and the seventh seal, when the 7-year period ends and the second coming of the Lord happens. Now, he took them back to heaven. Notice, Jesus is not here on earth at this time. He took those people back to heaven that were here and lived through the Antichrist reign. He took them back to heaven. Why? Because he has to pour out the wrath of the Lamb and the wrath of the Father on the earth, and we couldn't be here for that. So the 7-year period ended, and he's about to pour out the wrath. He came and got all the saints that lived through the Antichrist reign, and now he's about to pour out the wrath. Revelation 8:2. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God. To them were given 7 trumpets. Go down to verse 6. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Verse 7, the first angel sounded. Listen what it said. And there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast to the earth, and the third part of the trees was burned up, and all green grass was burned up. What was the angel told in Revelation 7 not to hurt the earth or the trees or the grass until they had sealed the servants? Why? Because the hurting of the earth and the trees and the grass was the beginning of the wrath of the Lamb.